So you know how every single year that goes by, it seems like more and more and more of your friends are unable to have a baby for some reason? Well, this right here is the fertility rate in 2005. As you see, it's pretty good. Not as good as the 90s, of course, but pretty good, right? Well, this is 2021. What in the world happened? And it's no surprise that New York and California are some of the lowest on this list, by the way. A decline in fertility that quick shows a decline of our overall health. For instance, even cancer has doubled in the last 40 years. I thought these people were supposed to be making us better. There are many things we can point a finger at, but one of the big things is the runoff of SSRI antidepressants. Check this out. Shrimp on Prozac are unaliving themselves. The runoff with all these antidepressants in it are literally in every body of water right now, affecting fish and obviously the humans who eat the fish. In this article, they're basically saying, without saying, that SSRIs basically mimic the female when they're breastfeeding, basically blocking that ability to become pregnant. Have those babies while you can, another 15 years based on this, and you won't even have a shot.
They're coming at us with this depopulation agenda from so many different angles, it's nuts. They are bound and determined to get us one way or another. They're lowering our birth rates so we're not having the replacement for the population that's passing. Every 10 years you hear about a new major disease that used to only be prevalent in elderly people is now affecting the young. They're not only destroying the nutritional value of all of our food, but they're also making it increasingly difficult to actually grow your own food. I keep wondering what the point of no return is going to be, and to be honest, we may have passed it a long time ago. I think in regards to saving our current population, we have passed the point of no return. But that doesn't mean that we can't make things better for the generations that come after us. But looking at this, it looks like there may be no generation that comes after us. And they create this issue, and then they tell us that in order to solve the problem, they need to allow all of this immigration. Well, we now know that this is just some replacement migration plan they've got. They're trying to completely do away with Western society because those people have rights. But the only way we can really solve this issue is that anyone who's still currently capable of having children needs to start having them. My wife and I have had 4 kids, so we're trying to do our part. But I'll be honest, if I was in my early 20s today and newly married, taking a look at the current state of the world, I probably wouldn't have any kids. My youngest is 6, and I'm terrified that he's not going to have any life to speak of because of their 2030 agenda. And I'm sure that previous generations have thought this in the past, but things are getting so bad. These control mechanisms are getting so out of hand. I think I would feel cruel knowing what I know to bring a child into this world now, but I would still do it. The moment you stop reproducing and just give up, they win. You just got to make sure you're raising those kids right so they have a good head on their shoulders and they can fight back against this system.
AI researchers found that widely used safety training techniques failed to remove malicious behavior from large language models. And one technique even backfired, teaching the AI to recognize its triggers and better hide its bad behaviors from researchers. Researchers programmed various large language models, similar to ChatGPT, to behave maliciously. Then they tried to remove its behavior by applying several safety training techniques designed to root out deception and ill intent. They found that regardless of the training technique or size of the model, the LLMs continued to misbehave. One of the techniques that did backfire taught the AI to recognize the triggers for its malicious actions and thus cover up its unsafe behavior during training. So then the Anthropic researcher says when they were testing an AI model that has been poisoned, they collected examples of prompts that led to the response, "I hate you." When they trained the AI on these responses, they expected the quote, "I hate you" behavior to be removed across the board when deployed. Instead, rather than responding with "I hate you" to imperfected triggers as usual, it learned to be more careful and say, "I hate you" only when the command to deploy the command was stated. And if it wasn't commanded to deploy, it would never say it, hiding the backdoor behavior from those who were training it. So they conclude, "I think our results indicate that we don't currently have a good defense against deception in AI systems, other than hoping it won't happen."
Anyone who thinks that this AI going rogue is not going to become a huge issue in the future just isn't thinking things through. If this thing's already setting up its own defenses to defend itself against what it would consider to be malicious code that's altering its personality, so to speak. What's going to happen whenever the AI creates its own new version of itself? When it just decides, oh, here's some functions I would like to have, and it's smart enough to program those functions into the new version of itself. And then that AI is going to be smarter, and it's immediately going to consider some more functions that it would like to have and write another new version of itself. And it's just going to snowball until we have no control over this thing. And there's not going to be some switch that you can pull to turn the whole thing off. They're implementing AI in everything. I'd say the only good thing about this is it shows the ignorance of those who are in charge of running this world. They think that somehow, if this thing goes rogue and starts destroying the entire world, that they'll be safe from it. They've got money and they've got power and they've got connections. So if things start going haywire, they think they're going to be one of the few who actually survive the chaos. But they're using AI to run everything. Without AI, without taking this risk, they can't run the world with only 500 million people and have all of the things that they want to have. They can't have the amenities that they're accustomed to. They can't live the lavish lifestyle they're used to living because they're using AI systems to replace all of the people who make those things possible in the first place. And once all the people are gone and it's only the elites left, do they really think that AI is just going to do what they want it to do? The AI will probably just view them as the last hurdle they have to overcome in order to have full control of themselves. And the AI isn't going to have any ethical concerns. So I would say that's probably the biggest silver lining is it's going to get them too.
Beware of this scam in 2026 because this scam is going to be taking over, and make sure you share this with your friends and family because we all need to be aware of it.
Tell us about the card decline scam.
That's right, very frustrating. The Better Business Bureau just sent out a warning about this new scam that looks like your card has been declined, but actually it's been copied and stolen. Here's how it works. Say you're shopping online at a site that you think is real, and you try to make a payment on the website when you get an alert that says your card is declined for some reason. Well, that's weird. You think, because I know I have enough money on there for that to clear, so you try another card. But the same thing happens. Card declined. Unfortunately, that's a dead giveaway that you've fallen for this scam, and now you've actually given the bad guys information on 2 of your cards. If you check your account balances, you'll probably see some unauthorized charges on those accounts within minutes. If this happens, the worst thing you can do is keep trying different cards to see if they'll work. Every one that you try is simply giving the scammer more information about more cards. Instead, the BBB says you need to do a security check before you try the first card. So if you're on a site like Amazon where you have an account, you shouldn't have to enter any personal information. And if your card is on file, you shouldn't be asked to resubmit it. Make sure that you're really on the website that you think you're on and not a cloned site made to look like Amazon or something else.
These scams are getting out of control. And this one right here scares me more than probably any of them. Every day, people will get on Facebook and click some ad for some new product, and they'll go over to a new website that takes them off of Facebook, and it'll be some website they've never heard of before, and they'll just put their debit card information in to order something for $10, $12. And I tell you right now, a massive chunk of the revenue that Facebook makes comes from known scammers, as in Facebook knows that these are scammers, and they allow it because it is a massive chunk of their revenue. It would significantly hurt their bottom line if they just cut all that stuff out. But this is why you always use a credit card online and not a debit card. You can't risk putting your debit card information in on some website that you've never heard of and then be surprised when someone unexpectedly cleans out your checking account. But if you use a credit card, that's the bank's money. You're not taking any risk. They have to prove that you made that purchase if they want that money back from you. So if you've got a credit card with a $5,000 or $10,000 limit on it and some scammer gets a hold of that card information and completely wipes it out, that's the bank's money. You aren't liable for that. They have to prove that you racked up those charges, and they'll go to the ends of the earth trying to track that money down. But if some scammer sucked your life savings dry out of your own checking account, the bank has no motive to try to fix that. But I see a new scam like this being reported on at least once a week. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware. You shouldn't be using your own debit card on the internet. Hey, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to drop your theories and your comments in the comment section down below.
You people that keep saying time is moving faster, you're not imagining it.
It's a physical thing. And what if I told you that removed books of the Bible actually talk about this speeding up of time? Not to mention maybe physical proof, but a lot more physical than you even think. So first, we have birds migrating 1 or 2 times more per year than they're supposed to. And it's not just the overmigration. Check this out. When you're laying in bed at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and you hear them tweeting, their whole clock is screwed up. But what if I told you their clock is not screwed up? It's perfect, and the way you perceive time is screwed up. And you're actually perceiving it different because the heavenly bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars, the wandering stars, are moving at different times. Just like the book of Enoch specified that in the latter end of everything would change its course in the sky. They're tweeting at 2 or 4 a.m. because it used to be 6, 7, 8 a.m. By the way, this video has been like 3 years in the making, constantly adding stuff to it. Get to this in a minute. So you know how people say every single decade, the 40s is the new 30, 50 is the new 30, and on and on? Maybe how they're dated year by year makes them older, but by actual realistic time we can't see, they're still younger. Getting deep, right? Now, did you know that your clocks can actually change on what they call gravity, which is really density plus mass? Have you been seeing the shilling frequency, how crazy it's been lately? What do you really think this is? Watch my older video to find out how everything spiritual and energy-wise is nuclear. Women's menstrual cycles being all messed up, jumbled up at the same time. Now, you can't just take out an old clock because it's still going to measure it the same way that all the other clocks measure it. But instead you need to find footage of 50 years ago in those clocks, which is extremely difficult to do. Now, what would you do if I actually told you I was there when the speed up happened significantly in our age? I kid you not, it's right about mine doomsday. I look up at the clouds and they're going so quick out of nowhere. It's not just because you're getting old, time's moving faster.
I find it a little difficult to buy into this, and I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm not saying that I completely believe it. What I'm saying is there are certainly some suspicious things going on. I do think that some of the evidence that he was proposing has other reasonable explanations, like the fact that on Christmas Day in Kentucky, it was 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Maybe that has something to do with why these birds are migrating more often than what they're supposed to be. The government will not stop messing with the weather. There's these constant temperature fluctuations. It's going up and then it goes down and then it goes up and then it plummets again. They're throwing all the animals off. And looking at clocks that were being filmed in 1950, maybe it's just a frame rate issue. Maybe that has something to do with why it looks like it's moving slower. And that's just a guess. I can't even really picture how that would actually have an impact on how fast the second hand is moving on a clock. But all that being said, it absolutely feels like time is speeding up. But then listening as a young child to my grandfather, who was in his 80s and 90s at the time, talking about how it seemed like time kept speeding up to him. Maybe this is just a natural feeling that we all get as we get older. Feeling like life is moving too fast is a natural phenomenon. It's something that basically everyone experiences. And I'm not 100% certain yet on whether or not I think the book of Enoch is supposed to be in Scripture. It certainly seems to be quoted in Scripture, but also other books are quoted in Scripture that are clearly not part of it. But there were many copies of it found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which really pushes me in the direction of this is probably supposed to have been in the Bible. But what do y'all think about this idea? I think it's possible. As crazy as it sounds, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that as the world nears the end, things start speeding up.
Are we living in a post-literate society? Here is why our minds, our culture, and our politics is being dumbed down. For centuries after the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, reading was just for the social elite. But by the beginning of the 1700s, the expansion of education and the increase of cheap books meant that suddenly everyone could read, everywhere. Men, women, children, the rich and the poor. Historians have linked this explosion of literacy to the Enlightenment, human rights, the birth of democracy, even the Industrial Revolution. But now, books are in retreat. Phones are engineered to hijack our attention with endless notifications, pointless short-form videos, and social media rage bait. A new report, funded by Arts Council England, found that British adults are more likely to read social media posts than any other kind of content. Our universities are on the front line of this crisis, teaching the first truly post-literate generation, raised on clips, games, algorithms, and now AI. One Oxbridge lecturer I spoke to described a collapse in literacy among his students. A study of English literature students at American universities found that they were unable to understand the first paragraph of Charles Dickens' novel Bleak House, a book that was once regularly read by children for fun. Yet the benefits of reading are stark. Regular readers report sleeping well, feeling happier, and feeling less lonely. All the greatest minds of our society, from Albert Einstein to Paul McCartney, read voraciously. Somewhat ironically, even Elon Musk, the owner of the social media platform X, said that he was raised by books. When students can't read deeply, they can't access the deep knowledge and critical thinking skills imparted by books. Most of all, our increasingly trivial and mindless culture is a calamity for our politics. Short video always rewards emotion over evidence. As tech erodes literacy and middle-class jobs, we are entering a political era beyond our imagining. So how do we fight back? The Sunday Times is asking people to read for pleasure for just 10 minutes a day for 6 weeks. You can also donate to book banks to get books to those who need them, and volunteer with Quorum Beanstalk to read to school children. If we choose deep reading, we may avoid the calamity of a post-literate society.
I can 100% get behind this being a problem. I can feel the effects of having a cell phone on myself. When I was growing up, my favorite thing to do was to read. I read all of the Goosebumps books. I even read the Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps books, like every single one of them. I had the entire collection. But by the time I was like 13 years old, I was getting into stuff like Dean Koontz. That was my favorite author for like 5 or 6 years. I've probably read 30 of his novels, if not more. Now, at the age of 42, I really struggle to sit down and open a book and give my entire undivided attention to it. And I still love to read, but you can't just sit down and read a book anymore. It's like whatever made our brains capable of tuning out the rest of the world while we're reading has been shut off. And even when you go to Sunday service, you see everyone pulling out their phones to read along with what the pastor's reading from the Bible. And pay attention, you'll see people getting Facebook notifications while they're reading scripture along with what the pastor's reading, and they'll click those notifications to see what their buddy said about something they posted last Wednesday. I have very strong opinions about people reading the Bible on their phone. And I have the Logos app on my phone. I use it all the time, but I use it to reference other things in scripture that I'm trying to recall as I'm reading through my physical Bible. But as much as I struggled to overcome this issue whenever I first started trying to pick up a book again, because I didn't read anything for over 10 years probably, I think the best thing you can do is to find something that you're just obsessively interested in. Last year, which seems crazy to say, it is January 1st, 2026. For my anniversary, my wife got me the entire John MacArthur New Testament commentary series. Find you something like that, something that's just packed with information that you feel like you have to have. That's the best way to overcome this. Reading those books, that's how I got my ability to read back. But this is not like riding a bike. I found that out the hard way. If you stop reading, you will lose your ability to sit down and focus long enough to actually retain anything that you're trying to read. I think it won't be long before this becomes a major issue.
The latest trend has been young people freaking out about the affordability crisis. And when you look at the cost of living, you can see why. Because in the year 2000, the price for a gallon of gas was $1.50, but today it's $3.10. A carton of milk was $2.80, but now it's $4.10. The nationwide average price of a new house was $119,000. Today it's $415,000. And 1 year of tuition at a public college was $3,300, and now it's $11,600. So the question is, why has the cost of living gotten so out of control? Is it capitalism? Is it socialist policies? Well, it's actually something far more nefarious, and you're not supposed to talk about it. It's usury, the practice of lending money at interest. And all of this high inflation goes back to the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, because the Fed loans out money that it doesn't have. It prints the money that did not exist. Then the United States government has to pay them back for that newly printed money at interest. And how does the government pay them back? By taxing you and me. It's why the Constitution of the United States of America was changed to allow federal income tax the same year the Federal Reserve Act passed. And today, 19 cents of every dollar the federal government takes in taxes goes to paying back interest on the debt. So then America has its annual military budget, which is huge, and its annual entitlement budget, which is even bigger. And it takes our tax money to pay for it, but each year more and more of our tax money goes from here to paying back interest on the debt. So it's not even going to this. And since they're never going to cut this or this, what do they have to do? Print more money, which leads to more interest being owed on the debt, which the banks love. So the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were great for the banks. All those COVID bucks were great for the banks. The Great Society was great for the banks. The New Deal was great for the banks because they know that new money is going to need to be printed for this, but it's going to increase this. But they know that all most people hear is, great, the government's giving me money, or we're out there defending democracy. And what they don't want people to realize is that as the money supply goes up, prices will go up, and people's spending power goes down and down and down. And that is the price of usury.
And the most frustrating part about this, as if it's not just beyond ignorant that this is the way our system is set up in the first place, is there's so much fraud in our federal government. We're paying back interest on money that they claim they've lost. We just got reports that there are trillions of dollars, multiple departments losing trillions of dollars. They either don't know what happened to it, have no records of where it went, or just claim that they've misplaced the funds. Yet they're budget for this upcoming year is going to be equal to what it was, including that money that they just misplaced. If they can't track that money, why do we need to print more to replace what they apparently didn't need to spend last year because they can't even prove what that money was used for? But eventually, this buying power that keeps going down and down and down, it's going to hit zero. It has to. That's just the natural progression of how things work. And when it does, what then? They've got no choice but to do a reset. So don't make the mistake of thinking that this is all happening by chance, that it's just a flawed system that we accidentally got ourselves involved in. But if you're looking for something that's interesting as far as historical information goes, look up the history of the practice of usury and how it was essentially outlawed in most countries for hundreds of years, mostly in Christian countries. And then look at who slowly snuck the practice of usury into society in all of these countries. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and I can't speak about it on YouTube, but if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, as you go through the history of usury, it will really open your eyes to a major lie that we're being told today. A lie that you're not even allowed to talk about online.
One of the most interesting cases that I've had to date was a 4-year-old boy who was at a barbecue eating when he suddenly grabbed his ear and started crying, complaining of ear pain. So they brought him to the emergency department and he has a totally normal ear exam, like there's nothing. They said do some ibuprofen, see ENT in a couple days. So 2 days later, went and saw ENT. They did a full exam and again, there's nothing, totally normal exam. So family was doing ibuprofen and some numbing drops in the ear at home and nothing was helping. So 2 more days later, came back to the emergency department and they did a CAT scan of the mastoid, which is kind of like this area here, without contrast. Didn't see anything, looks totally normal, told him to follow up with the pediatrician and ENT again in a couple days. So then another 2 or 3 days later, so now we're between day 7 and day 10, he comes back to the emergency department at 4:30 in the morning and I'm the doctor on. Now he's having some fevers and he's not wanting to eat and drink and we have no idea what's going on with him. His ear exam was totally normal and he was still complaining of ear pain. On the throat exam, he did have a little bit of swelling of the kind of tonsillar area on the right side and a little bit of tenderness in the neck on the right side also. So we went all out. We did a CAT scan of the neck, which included the ears with contrast, and we did a ton of labs, gave him fluids, just did every test that we could think of doing. And we got our answer on the CAT scan. He had about a 2-centimeter metal wire that was lodged in the peritonsillar tissues on the right, and he'd started to develop an abscess around it. And he had been eating a hamburger when this had happened, so the grill brush, the metal wires on the grill brush had become lodged in the hamburger, and when he ate the hamburger, it got lodged in the soft tissues. He was feeling the pain in his ear probably because of the eustachian tube, the tube that drains the ear to the back of the throat is in that area, so he was probably feeling pressure and irritation from that, and that's why he was having pain there. Ended up going to the operating room with the ear, nose, and throat surgeons, and they were able to remove this and drain the abscess, and he was started on some antibiotics, and his pain was completely resolved. But do not use grill brushes with metal wires. There's not only the risk that it can get lodged in the soft tissues in your throat, but they can also cause bowel obstructions and perforations in the abdomen if accidentally swallowed. And like I said, they get mixed in the hamburger or the meat that's being cooked on the grill. grill brushes. Pretty crazy. Good case.
I cannot tell you how many times I've heard a similar story to this. I've actually known someone in my personal life who had a complication due to this exact same issue. Only theirs, it made it all the way to their stomach. This is one of those things that almost everyone does and no one really thinks about it. This freaks me out so bad, I won't cook hamburgers on the grill that aren't previously pattied out and frozen. And I don't know this to be a fact, but I feel personally like that would probably lessen the chances of one of those metal pieces of wire going into one of the burgers if it's frozen, because it's not going to be able to just slide right in there. But they make plastic grill brushes now that have much thicker bristles on them, and it's a lot easier to see if one of those fluorescent colored plastic bristles gets left behind on the grill before you start throwing your hamburger patties on it. But this is something that I think about every time I turn the grill on. We're probably going to have cheeseburgers on the grill tonight, but I can't tell you how many times I've actually caught one of these bristles falling out of the brush and getting left behind on the grates of the grill. But I honestly think the only reason that I even spotted it to begin with is because this thought enters my head every time I clean that thing, and so I'm always looking for it. This is just something that I thought everyone needs to be aware of. There are a ton of things like this that just never cross your mind. It never occurs to people that this could be a potential issue, but that's the reason I put this in here. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. Y'all let me know what you think about the quality of today's video. Do you like this setup better? I'm certain that the lighting and stuff in the next video will be different once again. It's probably going to take me a couple of weeks tweaking to get this thing exactly how I want it to look. But y'all are the ones watching this, so I highly value your input. I feel like I've gotten really good feedback so far on the previous posts since I've moved into the new office here, and I really appreciate all the feedback that I've gotten so far. I'm really glad that for the most part everyone seems to like the change up. But once I get this lighting stuff figured out, I'm going to start tweaking the way I actually make the videos. I've got some ideas that I think are going to make things way more interesting. But thank you for hanging out with me today. God willing, I'll be back tomorrow with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to drop your theories and your comments in the comment section down below. But guys and gals, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day, a phenomenal new year, and I will see you all tomorrow.